Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast with your co-host, Kirk.
Hello, hello.
I am your other co-host, Cam. Thank you so much for being with us here. If you're watching on the stream, thank you for being with us here on a Tuesday night. We are extremely excited to be here. We're excited to be here for a lot of reasons, one of which is it's awards season, which is the most wonderful time of the year. Don't let... Who's a Christmas singer? Dean Martin,
Harry Connick Jr.
Harry Connick. Don't let them tell you different. This is the most wonderful time of the year. Bing Crosby, that's what I was looking for. This is the most wonderful time of the year because we get to just watch movies all the time. And when my wife is like, "Why are you watching all these movies?" I'm like, "Shh, it's award season. This is important." I don't actually do that. She would beat the crap out of me. Let's be honest. She'd be like, I'm sorry. No.
That's right.
It's award season though, and I have been watching movies like crazy. What about you, Kirk? Have you been down in the movies lately?
I have lots of bad movies. I don't know why.
Oh no.
To balance out the good ones in the world, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just gotta test my skills, right? Gotta see like, is this a good movie?
Yeah, make sure you're staying sharp. Just got to throw in like Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf and be like, do I think this is good?
Yes, Eagle Eye, The Kitchen. What did we watch?
Never again with The Kitchen. Never again. Been down that road. But yeah, I mean, this is great. I love award season. I woke up the other day and was just like, wow, the Oscars are 2 weeks away. You know, it was just, that was over the weekend that I had that epiphany. And I just got so excited. I'm so excited. I love the Oscars. I know it's going to be weird this year. I assume, it seems like it's going to be multiple studios, virtual, whatever. With the other award show, that sucks. But with the Oscars, it's still the Oscars. It still has the prestige. It still has, this is the one award show you can get really hyped for.
That's right. That's right. It's crazy that you say that, we're 2 weeks away when really it should have been in a normal world 2 months ago.
Yeah.
2 months ago. So I'm just struggling here to grasp that concept, and I'm sad.
I know, man. I know. We're in the home stretch though. We're rounding the final turn and we're ready to go. We are reviewing a movie that is nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, a little film called Minari. And I think we've covered most of the Best Picture nominees so far in our reviews. We haven't reviewed The Father, and I honestly think that might be it, unless I'm misremembering. But we're reviewing Minari, so we'll be able to check another Oscar Best Picture off your list. And then we've got some news to dive into as well. Not as crazy as last week, but we do have some big stories to cover that I'm very, very excited about. And if you listen to the podcast from Monday, that was our Spilled Popcorn recap and analysis on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is capturing the attention of people around the world. It's been one of the most well-received shows in the entire Disney Plus catalog to date, which sort of took me by surprise when WandaVision seemed so successful. The Mandalorian, obviously successful, but The Falcon and the Winter Soldier got off to a better start from a viewership standpoint than either of those. So what are your thoughts on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier so far?
Well, I have to say I am much happier with the series as a whole after episode 4.
Yeah.
I think that episodes 1 through 3.5, because at the second half of episode 3, we really got rolling. So I think that when I look at it back, it's going to have that Age of Ultron effect, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to say, oh man, I don't see where it fits in. And then we're going to get like 3 years down the line and be like, look what they laid into these first couple episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm down for it. I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had a leg up as well because WandaVision was so successful that people were ready for the next one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, to your point, a little slower out of the gate, but all signs are pointing in the right direction for that show. And all signs point toward episode 5 being an absolute barn burner of an episode. It's supposed to have a runtime of 61 minutes. They're teasing a new unannounced character to appear, played by an award-winning actor. So if you haven't watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, here is our official recommendation to go do that real quick before Friday so you don't get spoiled. And then while you're doing it, check in with us on YouTube or on a podcast provider to get our recap of each episode. Because we dropped some, I mean, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we dropped some nuggets in there. We dropped some real good ones.
Hey, listen, if we're not right on these now, we'll be right in the future. And
Right.
Marvel is listening to every one of these episodes.
I think
and
so.
they're taking the ideas. Look for us in the credits. We won't even know that we're in there because there's so many and they're so long, but we will be added to the list of credits for all the future MCU films and TV shows.
It would behoove them to take some of our advice. Our speculation's pretty good. Just saying.
That's right.
I was joking around with some people on Twitter the other day when in this thread where people were trying to guess who the big character reveal was going to be, and somebody commented that it was going to be Red Wing as an actual Falcon, because that happens in the comics. In the comics, Falcon has like a telepathic link to an actual Falcon who's Red Wing. And I was like, yeah, that would be a total Marvel move to like bring in a real Falcon and like play it off as like it's an award-winning Falcon. That was the joke that I made. Because they like after what they did with us with WandaVision being like, oh man, there's this huge new character, and then it ended up being Paul Bettany, like himself.
Yes.
Like that was such a troll that I have trust issues now. I have like deep-seated trust issues.
Man, if it's some kind of animal, I don't even know what I'll do. I
almost feel like it would be better now if they just troll us one more time, because it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
That's
and
right.
I feel like then I would just totally never trust them again, and it would be a relief for me if it was just like, oh, yep, they trolled us again. Then it's like anytime they plant these seeds, I'm just not going to take the bait. At least I would like to think that I would learn my lesson after a second violent trolling. I don't know.
No, we would do the same thing. We would absolutely fall for it again.
We probably would. We'd be like, oh my gosh, do you think it's going to be Namor? Yeah, so we'll see. It'll be fun, but if you guys haven't checked out The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or you're skeptical about it, I think now is the right time to jump on board. You can buzz through the first 4 episodes and catch up right in time for the back half of the show. So that's been a lot of fun, and we're excited to wrap that up. I have to say, I was rewatching our Spilled Popcorn episode 4, and that was we recorded it on Sunday, which was after our collective family celebrated Easter. And I had a lunch that comprised primarily of jelly beans and mac and cheese. And then we had pizza for dinner, and it is written all over my face, and you can hear it in my voice. It's like, I look so low energy. It's so bad. It's like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I need to make an edit of that, because seriously, there are like times during that episode where I'm like, it's like so obvious that I have crossed the sugar threshold for the day.
Oh man. I tell you, we've talked about this before because we have been doing this for more than a year, and every year on Easter, minus last year, we do an adult Easter egg hunt,
right?
Where
because we are children,
because we are children,
yes,
we deserve our Easter egg hunt more than our children who are 12 and under. I think that's very fair, and so we went hard, all of us.
Man.
So the grandparents, if you will, they lay out the eggs for us. There's cold hard cash in those eggs.
Money.
Get ready. We line up Survivor style, and we race towards these 100 eggs laden in play rock of a playground.
Yep.
My thighs. It's Tuesday. That was Sunday afternoon. My thighs are still burning.
Bro, straight up. You can't just go from not running for an entire year to sprinting as hard as you can. Like that, you're going to tear an ACL. Actually, I woke up on Monday morning and my Achilles tendons hurt. I kid you not. I was walking down the stairs and I was like, oh my gosh, it hurts so bad.
Yeah. I mean, simple tasks like putting on shoes.
Impossible.
Picking up toys behind children, like it's terrible. I almost fall over at every chance that I attempt here. So pray for me. Pray for my thighs.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers for Kirk's calves and thighs after the Easter egg hunt. But also, because we're only 2 days removed, so I can still feel the burn a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would also say it was good to get a reminder that like the stage of my life where I can just eat tons of sugar with no consequences is abruptly over.
Well,
I had a headache. I had a sugar headache. Is that a thing? I
it
got
is.
home and my head was throbbing. I was like, what has happened? And I think it's just the sweet tart jelly beans. They got me.
Define consequences, because I see that as a pro. I don't know
I
why.
mean, I also gained 2 pounds. So it's like, you go back and forth. Would I do it again? Probably, because I don't learn from things. And those jelly beans were delicious. But yeah, maybe next year I should try to rethink that before I just go hard.
There's nothing sneakier than Easter candy, because man, you just forget about it, and then all of a sudden there's all these wonderful, wonderful tart like treats.
It's a good point, because I feel like when you think of candy holidays, you think of things like, at least for me, you think Halloween, obviously. That is like the king candy holiday. You think Christmas, probably. There's always some candy in the stockings.
Yes.
And then I kind of think Valentine's Day, even though Valentine's Day is kind of a fart noise of a holiday in general.
How dare
it's
you?
just like, it's the worst.
How dare you?
But you don't ever, I don't ever, like, to your point, I don't ever think Easter.
It sneaks up on you,
And
for sure.
there is so much candy at Easter, dude. So much. Chocolate bunnies, those little like Reese's cup chocolate eggs. It's wild.
We prepare ourselves all year long to pace ourselves through the winter, and then spring hits, and we get the Easter bunny, and we all gain 2 pounds in one day.
It's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. So I need to make a mental note of that. I need to like set an alarm for next year. Like, don't eat too much candy, you fat lard.
Beware,
you will hate
Easter
yourself.
is coming.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had to talk about that because I thought it was hilarious. Like, if you guys have not watched the YouTube video from Spilled Popcorn, you should go back and watch and see how much of a sugar coma I am in during that episode. But it did not impact my brainwaves. My insights were still cash. So, at least that was kept intact. But we've got some movies. We got a movie to review later this episode. We got some news we need to get into. So with your permission, Kirk, I would like to request a popping. Can I pop it up? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Are you requesting?
I am,
If you could
formally.
pop this. Well, hold on right here.
That's right.
I have the power to allow you to pop or not pop.
I figured I'd throw you a bone because I feel like I hold a lot of power in this show, but here you go.
Yeah. Well, Cameron, pop it up.
Yes. I love that sound. That's the best sound. Oh, and guess what, Kirk? Today I've got graphics. I got graphics. Hold on.
What?
I do. But I also have a mouse, a Bluetooth mouse that's about to die. Like, it's on like 5% battery. The warning's at the top of my screen right now. So it might get weird here in a second. But the first story I want to cover, and I have to cover, I feel obligated to cover it, is mostly for you, Kirk. We have officially another Star Trek film on the way from Paramount.
Yes.
It was announced. This came out of nowhere, except for the fact that we kind of knew that there would eventually be a Star Trek movie, because it's one of those things where it's like, this is a big property for Paramount. This is like one of their biggest IPs. Yes. So at some point they have to make a Star Trek film. There were rumors. Remember, we actually talked about it on this podcast, Kirk, that there was going to be this Star Trek film that was going to be directed by Noah Hawley.
Yes.
And written by him. That got shelved. And what's interesting is that I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter. Oh gosh, I don't have it in my notes, but I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter said that movie in that script was supposed to revolve around like a pandemic, like a galaxy-wide pandemic. And so they were like, maybe not the time for that movie. So that being said, all signs point to this being a totally different movie and not that Noah Hawley movie. Now, what's interesting here, Kirk, is that J.J. Abrams is back to executive produce. Okay. And we had been told, as you painfully recall, I'm sure, Kirk, that due to contract issues with Chris Pine and some other actors, we weren't going to get a fourth movie in what they call in Star Trek the Kelvin timeline, which is the Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana timeline. But with J.J. Abrams aboard as EP, Kirk, Don't you think it kind of has to be on that timeline?
Oh yeah,
I feel like it
because
does.
it's his baby. He pulled this out of thin air, you know. He crafted this beautiful timeline along with Chris Pine's beautiful jawline and cheekbones. And let's not leave out Zachary Quinto. I mean,
Oh,
he's
just a great Spock. I mean,
look at him.
just so good.
Look at him. I mean, these guys aren't playing around. They're not sitting back seat. They're going hard, as they say
Going
in
hard
the
in the
biz.
paint. Yep.
Hard in the paint. That's right. This is my dream come true because I know people don't like Star Trek, but this reboot, the Kelvin timeline, really gave people who didn't like it something glorious to watch and glorious to have, and an all around great action packed film and thoughtful and poignant at times. And when Chris Pine cries, I cry with him every time. Every time.
Oh, the one scene, what is that, Into Darkness, where like he's gonna die inside the chamber and he and Spock are like, oh,
They
man,
connect.
it
And
hits.
Spock feels Kirk's
He
pain.
feels something, yeah. And then he chases Khan down. Man, it's so epic. It's so epic.
It is.
I have to say, to your point, I am not a Trekkie. I'm not. I'll just hand up. I'm not. Okay. It's not one of the nerd fandoms that I'm a member of. And I am a huge fan of this series because to me, it made, and I don't want to get rocks thrown at me for this, but it made Star Trek cool and fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I enjoyed it. And I know that some of the like traditional Trekkies really hated the second one, which I actually think was the best one in the series personally. So there are some mixed emotions around the Kelvin timeline, but I would say in terms of mass appeal, in terms of cinema, this is the way to go. And I hope that they do it. I think they've got something with this group of people, the Zoe Saldana, Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto cast. I mean, it's just money. It's just money. And it sucks that Anton Yelchin tragically passed away. What a talent. And so it would hurt to not have him along for this ride because he brought so much to this series. But I still think that is the timeline that people are going to be interested in. And speaking personally, that's the timeline I want to see. So I really hope they go that way.
And I mean, I really hope they can somehow bring Chris Hemsworth into this. That was the original
Oh
plan.
man, another flashback, or they can do timelines, right?
They can do timelines. They
They've
can
already
cross
done
through.
it once.
Even if it's brief, he doesn't have to be part of the whole film. It can be, I don't know, like a 10-minute segment. Just bring him in somehow. Find a way. If it's a flashback or if they cross paths and they help each other do whatever, save the galaxy. That's fine. Let's bring him in.
They probably never knew. You know, I bet they're kicked themselves. They're like, we could have had Chris Hemsworth.
Right.
Because he's in like 10 minutes of that first movie, which I believe, if I remember correctly, the first movie came out in 2009 and Thor came out in 2010. So, I mean, they were like right on the precipice of that being even bigger, but he stole the show.
Absolutely. Those first 10 minutes, I mean, it's not even a full 10-minute scene, I don't think.
Yeah, it's pretty short. But
in the brief time we have Chris Hemsworth, I mean, I was like crying in the theater, like, dude,
awesome.
This is good, you know? Like, so unexpected. It was really wonderfully crafted.
Yes, for sure. So I'll just say, overall, I'm excited about this news. I'll be mostly excited if they stay within the Kelvin timeline. If they go a different route, I'll be intrigued, but not as excited. That's all I have to say there. Awesome. Well, that is Star Trek. The release date that they're pegging on that one is 2023. 2023. So not as far out as you might think for something that was just announced, I would say. Like I was actually like, okay, 2023, that's not terrible. So they'll probably start production early next year, if I had to guess. So we should be getting more news very, very soon. I think it's also interesting because this really like never happens anymore. They like announced it on their own terms, you know, like they announced it on the Star Trek like website. So that was kind of cool. It didn't get broken by somebody else. All right, moving right along. And this is an interesting one, like really interesting. I wanted to focus on it because I think we'll talk about it for a little while. But Netflix and Sony have struck a massive deal, massive in terms of dollar signs. $1 billion is what they're saying is the reported value of this deal. And that's, believed to be over 4 to 5 years. So we're talking big, big money. And what this deal is, and I want to explain the terminology so everybody knows what I'm saying here. Netflix and Sony have reached a deal that would see all the upcoming Sony films, starting with 2022 projects, come to Netflix during the pay one window. Okay. Now, in the film industry, there are different windows that have been determined that people can bid on for availability. So the pay one window is after the theater window and after the home entertainment window. So it usually starts about 9 months after the movie has hit theaters, and it lasts somewhere around 18 months in general. And this is when you see this is usually when networks like Starz and HBO and pay TV networks get access to films. So Netflix is jumping in on that. And in fact, this deal was originally supposed to be with Starz, but they switched it to Netflix. So what that means is any project that's released after 2022 will go to Netflix after it exits theaters and after it exits the home entertainment window. That includes huge projects such as Morbius, Uncharted, Bullet Train, Into the Spider-Verse 2, and what we will assume is the future Spider-Man projects. And that's really the big headline stealer here, is that Spider-Man, Netflix will be the streaming home of Spider-Man, which is going to be interesting. Some other things about this deal is that they have a first look straight to streaming deal. So again, more terminology. What first look means in the entertainment industry is if you sign a first look deal with somebody, it means they get the right to bid on something before it goes out to the masses. So what that means is when Sony makes a movie that is a straight to streaming movie, will not go to theaters, then Netflix has the first opportunity to bid on it. If they pass, then Sony can sell it to whoever they want. So that is also included. So more straight to streaming content for Netflix as well. So this is big, Kirk. What's your reaction to this news, and how big of a win do you think this is for Netflix, or do you even think it's a win?
I think it's a massive win. It's a massive win. Sony is a massive big dog in the entertainment industry. Obviously, they've been around forever. I mean, this kind of crushes Warner Brothers, not crushes them, but it's a good competitor
it is a big
response
blow
to it.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I can see that there are just more things that are hot right now with Sony that are necessarily with Warner Brothers, right? So there's more franchises held that are hot with Sony. So I can see Netflix continuing to be king. The minds over there are just so stinking brilliant. And a long time ago, I tried to sign us up for to become Netflix taggers so we could watch movies and tag things that relate to the movie. And they never returned my call, my emails, anything.
Rude.
And I still check their board because it could be my side hustle. I could just tag movies because I watch all of their movies. But I just want to get in that room with them. I want to be in the room where it happens, where these geniuses make these deals and make these plays.
Yeah, I mean, they always seem to be a step ahead of everybody, don't they? I mean, this is all these other companies are spinning up, all these other content creator institutions are spinning up their own streaming platforms. And Netflix looks at that and they say, how are we going to compete? Well, Sony's not spinning up their own thing, and they have a really good, diverse set of intellectual property. So let's just buy them. And there were other suitors for sure. You better believe there were other suitors for these movies because Sony's, like you said, got a lot in the queue, but Netflix won. And I think for me, it's the range and depth of the content. It's not like Sony has Sony Pictures Classic. They have Sony Animation, which Sony Animation is doing some great things. If you look at Into the Spider-Verse, and they're doing this Mitchells versus the Monsters or something like that, which is a Lord and Miller movie. So it just has a really nice, diverse set of films that are going to fit right into that Netflix catalog. The synergies are there. You can see it. I love this deal. I love it. The only thing I hate about it is I feel like I still pull for the Spider-Man buyout from Marvel. I pray for it. I want it so bad because I don't want there to be this situation where Spider-Man is like hanging out in the ether and at any time can be stolen away from us. And he should be with Marvel. Marvel is the house that Spider-Man built. He is their guy. And so I still want this deal to happen, and this just feels like another hurdle in the way of that. But you have to give credit to Sony. They are running a really good operation with their content right now. They know what has value, and they're getting their value. They're getting top dollar for their IP. So this is another feather in their cap, and I think it's a win-win for both sides.
Sneaky Sony. Keep going.
They're sneaky. Yeah, and this is definitely a match made in heaven. All right, so that is Netflix and Sony Pictures striking a deal. That's, again, $1 billion, and it should stretch over the next 4 to 5 years. Speaking of Netflix, Kirk, there is a little program on Netflix. You may have heard of it. It wins all of the awards. It's called The Crown. The Crown. And The Crown, we've been waiting to hear when season 5 is coming, because we've gone through seasons 1 through 4. Season 4, everybody seemed to love. I am not there yet. Mm-hmm. I am in the transitionary period between 2 and 3, and here's why. It's because the cast changes between seasons 2 and 3, and I am so deeply emotionally connected to Claire Foy and Matt Smith at this point that I can't bear to lose them. Emotionally, I cannot handle it. So I am rejecting season 3 for now, but I know that there will come a day where I swing back around and get it.
Yes.
But in the meantime, season 5 of Netflix's The Crown, which is the biggest show in the world, basically, will begin filming in July with an all-new cast. And that cast has been pretty much confirmed. There were lots of rumors floating around, but now we've got our cast, and let me lay it on you here. We've got Elizabeth Debicki as Princess Diana. She was from Tenet. She did an excellent job in that movie. She's been in a number of other projects as well. Dominic West of The Wire fame will be playing Prince Charles. Imelda Staunton, who played Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter, is playing the Queen herself, Queen Elizabeth. And Leslie Manville is playing Princess Margaret. And Jonathan Pryce, Academy Award nominee Jonathan Pryce, is playing Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Beautiful.
Who recently passed away.
Rest in peace.
I really like how they say things in this show. I think that's my main appeal with this show. I like that they say the Duke of Edinburgh. You almost have to cough when you say it. The Duke of Edinburgh. You have to kind of give it that a little bit. And I like how, I tweeted about this the other day. I really like how when they say words that end in L-Y, L-Y, it's almost like they're trying as hard as they can not to make the Y sound, but still make sure people know what word they're saying. So let me give you an example.
Can I have an example?
Yes. They'll say like, resolutely. They'll kind of like leave it out there. Claire Foy is a magician at this. I can't do it as well as her, but she does that. So, Kirk, are you a fan of The Crown? Are you watching it?
See, I would like to watch The Crown. I'm stuck in season 1. I think they're on a safari tour right now. They're in
they're doing the Commonwealth tour.
That's it. That's where I'm at. I really want to move forward with it, but I got to say I started it late, and I think by the time I got to that episode, I think I had already heard of the cast announcements that there would be different actors portraying the characters, and I too had reservations. And I know
it's a turnoff for sure.
Everyone gets through it. Apparently, even though the people that have gotten through it are, they're saying, it's a struggle. I'm working through it. I'm in sessions about it. But
yes, I'm talking to people about it. I'm coping with it. Yes.
So I just gotta break through. I gotta push past that fear of mine and just really settle in and watch it in one weekend. All seasons.
I was stuck in that same place until recently, actually, and I had such a hard time with season 1 because the whole first season, historical spoiler alert coming up, so earmuffs if you don't know things about British history.
Yep.
But the whole season 1 sort of focuses around the king's death. Of tragically of tuberculosis. So I knew that was coming. And so the whole build up to that, I was like, yeah, he's going to die. Let's move on. So I kind of got tired of that. But, once I made it through that, it was great. And also the King's played by Jared Harris, and he's fantastic. So
yeah, he's really fantastic.
So it's just a great show. And this is one of those things, all your friends are probably, if you're not watching it, you're definitely in the same spot that I was, where everybody's like, you have to watch the show. And they get kind of mean about it, actually. They get like a little bit aggressive with it.
Yeah, I mean, you shoved me down.
I know, I did. I'm getting violent about it now in public.
Gosh.
So that's tough to deal with, but they're right. You know, their methods are wrong. The violence is wrong, but they're correct about what they're saying. So
yeah.
Take that for what it's worth. Okay, that's The Crown, season 5, coming your way probably next year if they're just now starting filming in July. Just bracing you for that reality due to COVID. Okay, next big story we got. This is a sad one, and I hate to get sad, but it's, you know, we've been talking about all COVID long. Is that a thing that people say? All COVID long?
Yes.
We've been talking about the theater industry, right? And how much the theater industry has been suffering. And, you know, these big chains were going to be going out of business. You know, AMC was filing for bankruptcy, all this stuff, crazy stuff going on. Well, it feels like the first really big domino has fallen as ArcLight and Pacific Theaters is permanently closing, which if you are watching the stream, you can see the beautiful Cinerama Dome, which is one of the most iconic theaters in all of the world. It's been featured in many, many, many films and sort of is synonymous with cinema and Hollywood. I mean, it's on Sunset Boulevard. It's just a beautiful sight. It's included in this. So, you know, my assumption is that someone with money will come around and save this theater, but that said, Pacific Theaters, ArcLight Theaters are out of business. So, you know, what we saw with AMC, where they, you know, some Reddit investors got to save them with their investments. And, you know, they have the benefit of being a huge corporation with lots of interests. It seems like some of these mid-sized theater chains may not survive. So support your theaters if you can, if you feel safe, or if you're vaccinated, or if there's any way to do it. This is real. The theaters are dying, and we can't let them die.
No, we really can't. It's man, that hurts. We kept seeing that they might all come back, right? That they're holding on, and what a great story it would be, you know, like 20 years from now, like, oh man, like think of the documentaries about the movie theaters played in the movie theaters, and it's sad to see them go.
It is sad, and it's even more sad than I imagined. So I'm hoping that we find a way to save most of our theaters. And here's what I want to ask you, because this is a story we didn't really get to talk about recently, but Warner Brothers is saying that after this year of, you know, doing the in theaters and on HBO Max thing, they're done. That they're going back to a theater window. Now they're saying that they're going to show their movies exclusively at Regal, I believe, Regal Theaters.
Okay.
Which I think the closest one is like 45 minutes away from me, so that sucks. But
I'm
they
moving,
are still
by
saying,
the way.
You're going to move across, yeah. But they are saying they're going to return to theaters. Do you buy that? Do you buy that, the idea that this will just be a one and done year for the straight to HBO Max stuff?
I could see it being two different branches. You know, there are tier 1 movies and tier 2 movies, you know, depending on budget, depending on star power, where it's just decided like this is going to, I mean, that would be the old ways, right? Before anything, it was like this is straight to DVD or straight to streaming. But I can see the bigger pictures doing it. Oh man, it's a tough one. It is
tough because
I feel like they'll go back on it. I feel like they'll go back on their word, because think about like when everything first started in 2020, and it was like, all right, we're just going to put 2 weeks on this. We're gonna just push everything back 2 weeks. We're gonna do it. Week and a half passes. We're pushing back 1 week. We're good. One more week and everything will be fine. We're pushing everything off indefinitely. So we'll see you never. That's what happened. They kept having to backtrack. So I see them having to go back over their word here for sure.
I think it's one of these things where the numbers will speak for themselves. So if HBO Max's subscriber count just explodes this year, there's just no way they're going to be able to go back and have this shareholder support. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And now they've struck an official deal, so they'll have to figure out the details of that. But I'm in the same boat with you. I'd like to believe that it goes back, and sort of the reason that theaters have been, safe from this sort of behavior in the past is that they have these deals and they have leverage. The theaters do. They're like, they work with associations like the Academy of Arts and Sciences to make sure that movies aren't eligible unless they're shown in a theater. And there is this collective arts community that has backed the theaters until now, and it's been strong. Admittedly, probably stronger than I thought it would be, and it's held up to a ton of pressure. But that pressure is going to continue to mount, and if Disney feels like they're having success with their straight to streaming stuff, they've done the Pixar movie straight to streaming so far, and they've done a couple of Disney Plus Premier Access things. And if HBO subscriber count goes up, that pressure is going to be too much to bear, and something's going to have to give. So that may be Warner's intent right now. But to your point, I think that it's written in sand and not in stone. So
I like that.
We'll see what happens.
Brush it like, no, it was never here.
Right. All right. Well, that's all we got for news. So let's pop it up with your permission, of course, Kurt, one last time.
Wait.
Hold.
Wait. My watch died earlier. There's nothing there.
There's nothing on your wrist. Great.
You may pop it up.
Yes. Okay. And now we get to my favorite part of the show, which is the movie review portion. And it's going to be the final portion of our show this week. We are reviewing, as I said, an Academy Award Best Picture nominee called Minari, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, starring Stephen Yeun. Kirk, why don't you synopsis it for us? It is your week for doing so, after all.
It is my week. So this is all about a family. We don't get a last name for the family, I don't believe.
The Yee family. Sorry, it's the Yee family.
Is it the Yee? Oh, thank you. Yes, we do get that. They say that actually probably 15
Only because,
times upon
what's his
recollection.
name? Will Patton's like, Mr. Yee, Mr. Yee.
That's right. And as a side note, I did finish this movie up until the moment before I signed on to this, and I forgot that about the movie. Not that this movie is forgettable in any way, shape, or form, but I did forget that little tiny detail. Minari is about a family. It's about a Korean descent family. The parents are direct immigrants from Korea. They flee to the United States because they hate it there. They want to start a life. They want to have a life of freedom and opportunity, and they have stars in their eyes. And we see none of that. That's all exposition. But what we do get in this film is that the Yee family, moves to a farm in Arkansas from California to start this life, to create something, to create success and a legacy. All right, here, your main man, Stephen Yeun, being the patriarch of the family. And what we find is that in their path to success, in their path to their dream, there is lots of failure, lots of struggle, and this picture perfect family that we see from the get-go, from an attempted refresh button, isn't going to go so well. There are things rooted in our lives that we can't just move locations or try a different strategy. We really have to get to the root of problems. And that's what this movie is all about, uncovering those things that are hidden. Don't let them create toxicity within you. Minari.
Love it. That's a great tease. I'm going to do the reminder thing again, even though it's probably getting annoying for people who listen to this show week after week. We're doing spoiler-full reviews. So if you haven't seen Minari and you want to see Minari and you're scared of spoilers, get right now.
Goodbye.
And come back, as always, to listen to it after you watch it. But that was a great synopsis, Kirk. This is going to be a fun movie to review. Let me just tell you, it's going to be a fun one. Let's dive right in. I want to hear your superlatives, starting off with the Oscar and who you're giving the Oscar to. And keep in mind, there are some people in this movie nominated for Oscars, and this movie itself is nominated for an Oscar. So I want to get your take. Who is getting the Oscar for you, Kirk?
So I have to put the caveat on here that most of the actors in here are of Korean descent, and I do not speak Korean, so I apologize in advance for how badly I will say their names.
I did look up pronunciations, so I might be able to help you, though I'm
Okay.
at the mercy of the internet. So
Okay, yeah. Well, the internet never lies, so we're in good shape there.
right.
I'm just going to say the character name first, and then I'm going to refer to this character as that character for the rest of my superlative. I have to say, the Oscar goes to Grandma, who is
Yeah.
played by her. I guess her character name is Sunja, and she's played by Yoo Jung Yoon, I
Yep.
think.
Yo Jung Yoon. Very good.
Yes, dude, what a character arc. This grandma coming in hot from California. She's back in California. She's over, or is she in Korea? That I wasn't clear on
Yeah,
that. Is she?
she's in Korea. She flies in from Korea and
Okay.
brings all the Korean delicacies with her, which I love that scene.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's where she's unpacking all of the fruits and vegetables and all of the stuff she smuggled into the United States. It's fantastic. This grandma comes in and she's seemingly just a grandma. And we all automatically immediately get from the kids like, you don't seem like a grandma. And I'm like, I don't really get that. Like she's kind of cool, you know? And then all of a sudden she starts unraveling. She starts cursing. She's a gambler. She teaches the kids how to play cards. She is like throwing her weight around. She's very crass. I just absolutely fell in love with her. And it wasn't so much like a character trope that we got out of her, that because you could easily have that. You have the crazy grandma who's senile, who just doesn't care anymore. There's something special about the way that this grandma was, that this actress, Ye Jung Yoon, took care of this character. Man, I don't know if it was just she was having so much fun that she just went for it, or what kind of study she did to get this in line. We start with that grandma who's also concerned for the success of her family and specifically of her daughter, who she's the mother of. And then she has this stroke out of nowhere about just over halfway through the film. And we see her demise through the rest of this film. She does not die, but we see her slowly decline from this unexpected stroke, which was also just so creative for the storyline. It would be easy. It's easy to kill off a character in a movie and have the rest of the characters mourn, but how much more difficult and how realistic is it to have someone elderly in your family, or any age in your family, and have to watch them struggle and suffer, who had so much joy in their life. Man, I could go on and on about Grandma, and Sunja, so good, wins the Oscar.
Yeah, and she is a recent BAFTA winner for this performance. Over the weekend, she took home the BAFTA.
Yes.
Well deserved. I mean, such a great performance for all the reasons that you said. So, love that pick. For me, it's our leading man. It's Steven Yeun. This is an actor that I have loved since I first saw him on The Walking Dead.
Yes.
His character Glenn was far and away my favorite character in that show. Brought so much depth and emotion to that show. Brought just another level of. There are very few characters I felt as much affection for as I did for Glenn in The Walking Dead. I mean, just absolutely love that character. And man, is he all grown up. I mean, this was a big boy performance, and he brought it 100%. I mean, I've always known that he had this in him from the first time I seen him on screen. It was just obvious that this guy has chops galore and tons of range, and he's in this role of the father. And I think for me, as a father of young children myself, and as someone who is a dreamer and ambitious, this whole story and the character was played so masterfully and hit home so deeply for me. And I just felt like I knew this character from a deeply emotional level. And I mean, from the beginning, it did not take long before I was in Steven Yeun's world and he was just doing his thing. It was just beautiful. It was a beautiful performance. I thought He was incredible, well deserving of his Oscar nominee. I'm giving him my Oscar here for this performance, and I thought he carried the film in a lot of ways. And this movie has tons of really well developed characters. His whole family is, but his story and the way that Stephen Yeun portrayed it so accurately, and you know, this is a foreign language film, and he goes back and forth between speaking his native tongue of Korean and also speaking English. And the level of difficulty on this performance is exceptional. He captures emotions that are so, unexplainable, so intangible, but so real. It is insane. There are times where he's having conversations with the guy who ends up being his farmhand, essentially Will Patton, and you can see the wheels turning in Stephen Yeun's head of like, should I trust this guy? What is he talking about? What do I say next to make sure that I keep him reined in? Like, incredible work. Can't say enough about Mr. Yeun. Well deserving of the nominee, and just a great performance overall. So that's my Oscar.
Yes, that is going to be my scene stealer, Mr.
All right.
Stephen Yeun as well. Everything you said was spot on. He's got it all. He is just an absolute baller in this role. I never imagined after seeing him in The Walking Dead become a father, because he doesn't become a father on screen. Man, spoiler alert.
That killed that show for me, man. I have to say, that's what killed it.
Brutal. Literally killed it. But his son lives on in The Walking Dead. For those of you still watching as well. So it was difficult for me at first. It just only took a moment to see him as a father, and it happily surprised me to see him take on this role. I love the dynamics of this era. So it's set in the Reagan administration, we hear, and this is very much still when all families beat their kids when they were not good. And Stephen Yeun kind of fights with this as a father, and he there's this like shaming of, you go get the stick. You're going to get the stick that I'm going to beat you with. And at first there's only a threatening scene of it, and then it gets dropped. And then some big stuff happens, and he says, you go. The big stuff happens that his son David pees into a bowl of what would be like some sort of soup, and feeds it to his grandmother Sunja, and she drinks it. And there's this big dramatic like layout scene, and he ends up not doing it because David outsmarts his own dad and gets a piece of like wheat to hit him with. So I love the nuances there. He's like, I have to be the father. I have to, lead my family as I was led in Korea, my family, my ancestry, my legacy, my tradition. He's doing all of that, all while maintaining, well, I'm also a man of this time, and I'm also going to pave my own way. And so that dichotomy that he's playing there too was also fascinating to watch. So he's got a bright future. He's still very young, and I can see this is exciting for his first nomination. I can see him taking home several more, at least nominations, and one day a win with performances like this.
100%. I love what you talked about, him struggling with the fatherhood thing and how to be a good father. And this happens with, every gender, every race, every creed, whatever. But, as a young father myself, I can tell you that like there are societal pressures for how you handle your business, as a man and as a dad, and to see him struggling with this, I was like, man, been there, totally been there. And it was so real. And so that's why it just hits home. But yeah, it's like you're constantly battling with who am I, but also what am I supposed to do? And what you're supposed to do is told to you by these external forces that aren't really real. They're just, out there. So man, just truly beautiful. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word, just a beautiful performance. So a great choice. All right, for my scene stealer, I'm cheating a wee bit. I'm choosing two people. Okay,
nope.
And it's
get out.
It's our grandma Ye Jung Yoon and our little brother, our adorable little brother Alan Kim. This duo, man, what a powerhouse! This, young Alan Kim plays David, who is the youngest in the family and the only boy, and he gets the news that grandma is coming from Korea, and this is a grandma that he's never met because, he was born in America and she lives in Korea and he's still very young. Well, everyone else in the family has met grandma, and young David decides that that is not cool and he wants nothing to do with grandma. And so every scene shared between these two is absolutely electric. It brings so much levity to the film, so much life. It's so well done. And, Kirk, you said all the incredible things about Ye Jung Yoon's performance as grandma, but their dynamic together for me is what really sets this movie on fire and just gives it so much life. And to watch the relationship develop through these hilariously real conversations. I mean, you mentioned the peeing in the bowl. I love that grandma's like constantly pounding Mountain Dew, and like they, he convinces her that it's good for her, and it's just awesome. And then all the way to the end where we get this incredibly touching scene, a heartbreakingly beautiful scene where young David, who has a hole on his heart. That's part of his whole storyline, and part of what the mother of the family loses so much sleep over, Monica, is that he is not well, and his grandma walks off into the darkness, having lost her mental faculties from her stroke and everything, and he gallops into a sprint to jump in front of her and stop her. The grandma that he didn't want and now is so dear to him, stops her from running away and says, "No, let's bring you home." I mean, that scene, man, that it's just. I mean, I get goosebumps talking about it. Just a beautiful scene, and such a incredible punctuation mark on a relationship that really flourished into something truly awesome in this movie. And for young Alan Kim to be doing what he's doing in this movie, man, I cannot say enough about this kid. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at what he was able to do. So that whole relationship makes this movie worth the price of admission and then some on its own. So that's my scene stealer.
One of my absolute favorite lines that he says, because he's forced to sleep with grandma. Grandma sleeps on the floor of his room, which is kind of funny. But he says, "Man, grandma smells like Korea."
Yeah, dude, he's so mean to his grandma throughout this movie. It's hilarious.
That's what's also fantastic about this movie is that these kids, they grew up in Korea as well, at least for just a tad bit, before coming over to America. They are Americanized, but fully immersed in the Korean culture, and so they go even harder on which way. It's like they're wearing different hats. Like, this is my American hat, and here's how I'm going to speak to you, and here's the ideals that I love, and here's my Korean hat, my heritage, and this is the thing that I love about my family and what ties me to it. And that right there is so good. It reminds me of my daughter, because she is very nose sensitive, and she will just tell how it is. She's like, "Something stinky," and like she'll just like quiet the room with that, and you're just like, "Man, I don't know, was that me?
Hope it's not me." Yeah, I just got put on Front Street by the 3-year-old.
Exactly. Oh yeah, their relationship, fantastic, wonderful choice.
Awesome. Well, let's move into Showstopper, Kirk. What was it about this movie that really blew you away?
Easy. This is the storytelling. I can't get any more complex than that, because there was the story was so complex but so smooth. Everywhere you looked, there were just these layers on, as they say in Shrek, of course. Minari is like an onion, and just like an ogre. But this movie really is just like that. And you just slowly they slowly peel back the top layer to reveal something more, and then they peel something over on the left, and they're like, "Oh, look over here," and look over to the right and underneath, and it's just so well played. It's never in your face, and it's never hitting you on the head. It's not that kind of movie, and it doesn't need to be, but there's so much going on. I could probably watch this movie 100 times and find new connections and new nuances between the mise en scène, between the colors of each of the each of the characters' costumes and wardrobe, between even down to the setting that they're in and where the dialogue is happening. It's so poignant, so well crafted. This storytelling was so smooth. I'm just being repetitive now that it's very high on my list. It's very high on my list.
I love it. And what's really cool about this is the way that Lee Isaac Chung went about writing this movie is that it is semi-autobiographical, and not in the sense that the narrative are things that happened to him, but there are little pieces of his real childhood sprinkled in this movie that he used as the basis for movie, and then drew a little narrative line through it and told a story. And when you lay that knowledge on top of it, and I didn't learn that until after I'd watched the film, I was just blown away. I mean, the storytelling, to your point, is absolutely brilliant. So that's a great choice. My showstopper, and I'll be 100% honest with you, I've been going back and forth on this the whole time because I actually had three things written down, but I couldn't decide which one to go with. For me, it is how this movie bucks tradition and convention in its storytelling. So it challenges your internal biases and thoughts and uses that as a tool to captivate you, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So here we see this Korean American family and everything is flipped on its head. Like they're farmers in Arkansas, which is like a texture and an environment you associate with like good old down south white bread folk, and like they moved from California to Arkansas for their fresh start, which is like crazy. Their dream is a farm, not the big city. Like all these ways in which they flip convention and tropes and cliches on their head. And the fact that it's based on true story, it challenges your your biases and your, conventional thinking in ways that cannot be undone. And you think to yourself, oh wow, I need to open my mind because this is the American dream. And this was somebody's actual American dream. And these memories are real. And, that's what's, it made me feel oddly patriotic. I was like, this is what this country is supposed to be at its best. And, shame on me for not thinking of this as the traditional vehicle for that message, because it really is. Everything that America is supposed to be is captured in this film. And the way that Lee Isaac Chung told this story and used that to really draw you in as a viewer is just impeccable. And I love it. And for that reason, I mean, and many others, this movie is just like hits you right in the heart, and it's just lovely. And it is one of those movies that is just so pleasant to watch. I just cannot stress it enough. It's like the movie Brooklyn with Saoirse Ronan is a movie that I often equate to this, where it's just like a warm movie. It just, and this movie obviously had stress. It had really intense plot lines and a climax that's just like whoa. But the warmth, the family themes, the family dynamic, and even though it's not perfect, it's so familiar and so real. And for that reason, I love it. So that's my showstopper.
I love that you said Brooklyn. I thought that exact same thing about halfway through this movie. I'm like, getting Brooklyn vibes,
Yeah,
like,
man.
That's awesome. I love that.
Nice. Yeah. What about director shoes? What notes would you have for our director, Lee Isaac Chung?
Man, not many. This movie flew by. It's just under 2 hours, just by a few minutes. And the only thing that I would have wished that could have happened, and I don't even know if it's possible, I would have given it just like maybe 15 to 20 more minutes of runtime and given the daughter and Will Patton just a little bit more oomph to their storylines, because they were important. They were both very good. And we didn't see a full resolve to either of them. We got closer with Will Patton, but the daughter never really got her full day in court, which that could be speaking to the cultural side of the Korean American dynamic. So that's also in the same breath. It could be their reasoning, but
and it being the 80s, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. There are probably reasons, but yeah, it's a good point.
Right. So I just wish we had more of both of those characters because we got so much of everyone else, and it really would have rounded this out in a nice way for me.
Well, I have to say mine is exactly the same. Not down to specifically the characters, but not down to specifically the characters you named, but there were some characters in this movie. While all of them were well developed, some of them could have been even more developed, and it would have rounded things out. Exactly as you said, I think it would have added a little bit more depth, and we get so close to what Stephen Yeun's got going on, and even the story of his son, and their marriage, him and his wife. But there are a couple characters that we get not all the way baked. They were not golden brown just yet, and not ready to be pulled out of the oven. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more of that. But I mean, we're talking nitpicky. We're talking real nitpicky at that point. It's for me at least. It's something that wasn't like, oh, how dare you? It was just like, we could have done a little bit more of that. So that's exactly my director's shoes as well.
Beautiful.
All right, and with that brings us to our final thoughts and our scores. Kirk, you have the floor, my friend.
This is a big one. When I look at the Best Picture nominations for this year, this stands the test of time. So looking at the list, we've got The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and Sound of Metal as our list. Oh, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Let's not forget. This movie is going to, I think it's going to win the Oscar. I'm just throwing it out there. And this is we've got one more film, The Father. That's the last one we've got to see on our list here.
Yep.
This movie was it's very rare to get this type of storytelling. We talk a lot about character depth and skill of the director and attention span. We talk about Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, where we get lost, where it gets muddy. This didn't have any of that. And that is why my score for this is super high. It is a 9.9 out of 10. I've given that score one other time to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And this thing is gorgeous. Gorgeous in every tangible feel. You feel like you're on that farm. To the meaning of the Minari, how it's a water-based plant, how water is essential to life, and their lives on this farm are they have no control over it. You have no control over the water you're going to get. It comes from your faucet, but it can be easily taken away from you. And how Minari is almost like a weed. So it's beautiful, it's pretty, but it's also a weed. It's messy, but you need it because it's water-based. Like everything in this from top to bottom was just beautiful. 9.9 out of 10.
Wowzers. That's a big score. Big score alert there. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the people are going to not like the ending of this movie. I've been around the block a few times, and I'll just tell you that some people are going to have gripes about the ending of this movie, and with all due respect, those people are wrong. I mean, I don't like to say things like that because, film is interpretive. We talk about it all the time, and you guys can have totally different views on movies than us. But all the reasons that you just said about the Minari and what it means, and the fact that it's like the thing that the grandma brought, like there are so many layers to why that had to be the end of the movie that it's just like, what a final punch. And even though it feels abrupt and you're like, why is the movie over? It's not. And it sits with you and sinks in and you're like, dang. That's just like, that's all you can say. You're just like, holy cow, did that hit hard? So that's a great score, Kirk. I mean, when I look at this and, I said we were going to talk about, how it stacks up against the competition, which you did. And when I look at this in comparison to our other Best Picture nominees, you look for moments, right? It seems like these movies that win Best Picture have a signature moment, and there is no shortage of those moments in this movie. But for me, the moment is when the barn is burning and Stephen Yeun goes in, his wife Monica chases after him. They're trying to save the produce, but then it becomes quickly evident that this is a lost cause and they need to get out of there. They choose to save each other, even though their marriage was on the rocks earlier in the day. what a scene, what a moment, and all of us can relate to that in one way or the other. Even even though we may not experience those same stakes, um, what a what a beautiful encapsulation of family, of what family means, of what it means to love, and what it means to be married, and just like everything. And that's what I love about this movie is that any given scene you could pause. If, like, imagine you're teaching a film class, you could pause and say, okay, what themes are we hitting right here? And you could check off 5 to 10 different things. It's not just one dimensional, or we're following this one through line. There are themes stacked on themes stacked on themes. They're all excellently executed. Most of them are followed all the way through the end, and it's beautiful. And so that's why for me, this is my best picture. I predict that it will. I predict that it will win. Same as you, Kirk. I think it. Nomadland is the favorite right now, but this feels like my Oscar Best Picture. I think if I was, when we make our picks later next week and we say what will win, what should win, this will be in my what should win for Best Picture. And even though it may not come out on top, that's what I think the Academy should do, and I'm starting to lean towards I think they will do. So I think Minari is Best Picture, and for me, it's a 9.7 out of 10. I love this movie. I have very minor critiques of it, and I think it's just a beautiful piece of work. Well done to Lee Isaac Chung and team. I think it's fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, and you're not someone who cares about spoilers, which is why you're still here at this point, go check it out. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I love what you said there about that fight and the fire at the end and how real it was. One of the realest moments about that is they've had the conversation. They're done. They are going, when they get back home, that is it, in their minds. How often have you been in a fight with your loved one, with your spouse, and then all of a sudden something changes about your environment that you automatically just go back into supporting that person? Your girl hates that farm. She despises it. It's in her mind, it's ruining her family. It's draining all of their resources. And yet when this fire is happening, she goes after her husband, but she helps save the fruit and the vegetables. That's what she helps save because she knows it's important to him, because by saving it, it's saving him, because he won't stop until it's out of there.
Yeah. So, and he has to go back for her.
He loses her in the smoke.
Yes.
It's so perfect. I mean, I can tell you countless times where I've been in a fit of rage and then I hurt myself. I stub my toe, which I do practically every hour, and then I'm in pain and I'm writhing on the floor. And my wife comes up to me and just starts rubbing my back, and it's like, I don't deserve this. Like, that's what that moment reminds me of just pure, just getting wrapped up in our own emotions. And in their fight, it was obviously much deeper and much more complex than stubbing a toe. But the reality of that moment in comparison to this giant disaster that was happening was just really spectacular. They just, from moment to moment, we've talked about it before. If there could be a best scene category, this would be nominated for a best scene.
I think so, man. I think so. And yeah, it's any relationship that's based on trust. At some point, you decide to push that trust to the limit, whether it's your marriage or your relationship with your child or your friend or your cousin or whatever. Like, at some point, this is why people fight. They're saying, if things got crazy, would you stick with me? And that's, that scene where they say we're done, that's them saying, I'm sticking my feet in the ground. I'm supporting my thing. But then when push comes to shove and the stakes are real, they know that they're there for each other. They push their trust to the ultimate test, and it prevails. And man, getting goosebumps again, man. I'm telling you, that's just good filmmaking. It's really well done. You love to see it. So that is Minari. Easily the most glowing review we've given in a long time since the 2019 awards cycle. I think it's probably our highest reviewed movie ever. If not, it's really, really close. So check out Minari. You can sadly only watch it on video on demand with the like Prime Video Cinema or those $20 rentals. So it's a $20 rental, but let me tell you, worth every penny. It's a beautiful movie. That's all we've got for now. We've got a lot of exciting things going on that I want to fill you in on. As you've been seeing scrolling across the bottom of the screen, if you're on the stream, want to tell you guys we've got a Discord server, and what Discord is, it's an app. If you use Slack at work or Teams or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, Discord is just like that. Only our Discord server is filled with people who love movies and TV. So come hang with us. You can join it whenever we post in there pretty much daily, talking about movies, talking about what's new. As soon as I see a news story, it goes in Discord before I do anything else. So keep you guys up to date on everything that we're tracking. It's a great place to know when we have new episodes that post, new YouTube videos, etc. We've got 3 or 4 things coming out every single week, so that is the place to get all your info. Also, I've mentioned it before. We've got Spilled Popcorn, which is our episode recap series that we've been doing with TV shows. We've got 2 episodes left in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Come hang with us on Spilled Popcorn. It's a lot of fun. We get into the nitty-gritty on shows, even more so than we do in our movie reviews here. So you can catch that on YouTube, which is what I would recommend. But you can also listen to it in podcast format if you're on the move. So that's a great way to connect with us as well. But as always, we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate our lovely, lovely original music, which is by Rhetoric. And we will see you guys next week. We have a really good surprise in store for next week, so I'll just leave you with that juicy tease, and we'll see you next time.
Talk to you then.